Okay, we're going back to chapter 7.4, part 2 today. In order to solve quadratic equations by factoring, the equation must be in standard form. Remember, standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. So that today we're going to have to use we're going to factor before we can solve. Okay, so we see that our leading coefficient is 1, so we can use our x method. This tells me same sign because it's a positive. This tells me both pos. Okay, so it's going to add to give me 16, multiply to give me 48. So we have 1 and 48, 2 and 24, 3 and 16, 4 and 12, 5 doesn't do it, and then 6 and 8. Okay, so we want to know which ones are going to add to give me 16. This is 49, 26, 19, 16. So we see this is our answer, 4 and 12. I can write that out as x plus 4 times x plus 12 equals 0. Remember to solve. You break these up. One of the two factors could be 0 to make it 0. So it has to be 0 to make it 0. So x plus 4 equals 0, or x plus 12 equals 0. Subtract 4 from both sides. We end up with x equals negative 4, or subtract 12 from both sides. X equals negative 12. So when x is negative 4, the equation equals 0, or when x is negative 12, the equation equals 0. Once again, we see that we have a leading coefficient of 1. Same sign. This one tells me both negative. Okay, so we can use our x method. Adds to give me negative 2, multiplies to give me 1. They're both going to be negative. Well, the only way that happens is 1 times negative 1. We can write this out as x minus 1 times x minus 1 equals 0. You know that normally we write x minus 1 equals 0 or x minus 1 equals 0, but it's the same equation. I only have to solve 1. So when x equals 1, we see that this would make the equation equal to 0. Example 6 looks a little different. We look at it and we see that it is not in standard form. So before we can do anything with it, we have to write it in standard form. That means moving this to the other side. So we're going to add 13 to the other side. So we have c squared plus 14c plus 13. 13 does not have a variable on it, so you cannot combine it with either of the other ones. Equals 0. So this is what we needed for standard form. Everything on one side, the other half equal to 0. Okay, so now we can use our x method because our leading coefficient is 1. This tells me same sign. This tells me both negative. Nope, both positive, sorry. So adds to give me 14, multiplies to give me 13. They're both going to be positive. The only the way that can happen is 1 and 13. So we can write this out as x plus 1, x plus 13 equals 0. We have to break that apart, so x plus 1 equals 0, or x plus 13 equals 0. Subtract 1, x equals negative 1. Subtract 13, x equals negative 13. So either negative 1 or negative 13 will create this equation to be equal to 0. Much like the last one, we see it's not in standard form. We've got to get that 30 on the same side as everything else. So we're going to subtract over 30. So this gives me t squared minus 7t minus 30 equals 0. This tells me diff signs. This tells me bigger number, negative. So ways to multiply to get 30. I have 1 and 30. I have 2 and 15. I have 3 and 10. I have 5 and 6. Bigger numbers negative, so I put negatives on my bigger numbers. So this gives me negative 29. This gives me negative 13. This gives me negative 7. This is the one I want. So over here, adds to give me negative 7. Multiplies to give me negative 30. Well, that gives me 3 and negative 10. So I can write this out as x plus 3, x minus 10 equals 0. Set each of them equal to 0. X plus 3 equals 0. X minus 10 equals 0. Subtract our 3. X equals negative 3, or add 10 to both sides. X equals 10. Okay, hopefully you guys are getting a good hang of this. Let me know if you have any questions.